Hey everyone, this is Ryan from Arcade High. I figured I would just share with you some video tutorials on music production, specifically synthwave music. I'm by no means a master at this kind of thing, but I figured I would kind of show you some of the techniques that I like to use when I'm making music. For this first tutorial, we'll be working on just a basic drum loop, and I made it a little bit longer for you guys so you can actually follow along and not have to pause the video every 2 seconds. We'll be eventually adding some bass and some synths to this, but for starters, we'll be just using samples to create a basic drum loop, and it'll sound something like this when we're done. Alright, let's get started. So to begin, you're going to go up to File, New. You're going to get this box here. We're going to click Software Instrument because this is what we're going to be using, drum machine samples and whatnot. Audio would be for if you're using, mic'd actual real drums or guitar or vocal, etc. So software instrument, everything down here is fine. Gonna click Create, and here we go, got our first software instrument. I'm gonna go ahead and minimize these things right here, clicking these little arrows so I can see my goodies over here for my tracks. And I'm gonna double click this and rename it Kick. And I'm going to go ahead and right click and create empty MIDI region, which will bring up our first little MIDI region. I'm going to roll my mouse to the top right corner, which will bring up this little loop icon. I'm going to click and drag to the right. This is usually how I do my drums. I tend to like to kind of have one little MIDI section and then loop that kind of straight down the line and have a little bit of a drum loop to kind of play around with. Now I'm going to go ahead and press C on my keyboard to bring up my cycle. This cycle can be moved around. Basically all this does is tells Logic what section you want to loop. And usually when I'm creating my drums, I'll have them on loop so I can just kind of hear them over and over again and tweak things as necessary. So we're going to move this in so we're only playing our drums. To begin, we're going to go to this instrument here and click EXS24 Sampler Stereo. I do all my drums in EXS24. It looks very confusing, but I promise you it's not. You're just going to go over here to Edit, click this, which will bring up a little piano roll, and you can go ahead and close this for room if needed. So you're going to come up to the right corner here and click this button, and then come down over to All Files, and it's going to show you the files in your computer. I'll leave a couple download links in the description for you guys to get some classic drum machine kits that you can use for this tutorial. There's tons of different samples online that you can find for free. Just do a Google search. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this home button here and then navigate to where my drum samples are. You'll have to find your own on your computer. And one thing I want to really kind of press into you guys is to start with good samples. It's going to save you a lot of time in the long run from trying to tweak and shape the samples to being what you want. Just trust me. All right, let's grab a kick. Yeah, and you can press spacebar in any of these to sample them. I'm going to click and drag, and we're just going to move it over here to C1, and we have our first little sample on there for our drum machine. Now, first thing I do when I put samples into a new drum machine is I turn off pitch and one-shot. I'll kind of explain a little bit more about one-shot later. Pitch can be useful for certain things, but we're not going to be needing it right now. So go ahead and just turn those off for now. So what do we want next? We want, we're going to need a hi-hat. So let's go ahead and, I've been using the Lin drum hi-hat lately. Nice and clean. I'm going to grab that. Let's see here. Okay, grab that one. And let's grab an open one as well. Yeah, let's grab an open one. And so we can grab a crash too. Basic crash. We're going to need some toms. I love these Roland R5 toms. I have an actual Roland R5 drum machine. It was my father's. I ripped these toms from him. They're these exaggerated 80s toms. You can actually click and hold shift and select multiple items at once and drag them all onto a key. It'll come up and ask you all this craziness. Just hit OK, and it'll drop them in. And you can go ahead and uncheck all these. If you'd like, you can actually hold shift to select multiple samples at once and then turn them off that way as well. So now that we have that, let's grab a snare. Let's see here, drum kits. The SC88 snare is pretty nice. The Roland SC88. Let's see if I can find this. I think it's D2 something. Yeah, here. Yeah, just grab that one. And we're gonna turn off pitch and one shot on that as well. Then I guess we can grab a clap. I have been using the 707 clap. We'll grab that one. Basic clap. And drop that in. So now that we have our basic drum kit, we can go up to instrument here and save as, and then we can save this as whatever we want. I'll just save this as tutorial. And we can close out of this. So now that we have our one instrument set already with the EXS24 on tutorial, I'm simply going to press Command D to duplicate that. And we immediately get another track with the correct instrument and drum kit on it already. So we're gonna name this one hi-hat. Command D, duplicate that one. We'll name this one, let's do, I guess, snare. Duplicate again. We'll do clap. Duplicate. We'll do toms, and then. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create new MIDI regions on all of these by right-clicking, create empty MIDI region, and we're going to loop them out here. Okay, so now all you have to do is double-click any of these regions, and you're going to bring up your piano roll down here. I'm going to drag this up to make it a little bit bigger. And if you hold Command and click, you will create a MIDI note. Move them around here, and you can extend the MIDI note, move it around. You can extend it on either side. So we're going to move this to C1 where our kick is. And I'm going to hold Option and click and drag, and then let go of click and then let go of Option, and it's going to copy the note for me. So once again, hold Option and click and drag, and it's going to copy that note. Here we have, on the one kick, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at 70 BPM. Let's bump that up to 120. And we have it looped. So if we hit play, it'll just keep looping around. So we'll move down the line. There's our basic kick. Let's grab a hi-hat. And let's just do a basic hi-hat, and I just copy that. Now I can also copy multiples at once. If I grab both of these and then hold Option, I can copy 2 of them. Hi-hat's a little loud, so as you're kind of doing all these instruments, you're going to be kind of wanting to check volume. You can change your volume right here. Just turn that down. There's fine for now. Grab our snare. Snare should be right here and here, so every other kick. Okay, sounds good. Let's grab our clap. Once again on 2 and the 4 here. It's a little loud. Okay, basic enough. And let's add our toms. These are kind of actually backwards, so the highest one's in the bottom. Just a super simple tom fill. we'll add our crash. Now, here's where the one-shot comes in. If I play this by clicking it, you hear how it cuts out like that, cuts off early. It's because the MIDI note is only so long. One shot makes it so if you have one shot on, no matter how long the MIDI note is, it will play the entire sample fully through. If you have one shot off, it gives you control, allowing you to control how long that actual sample is. So if I drag this out, we hear the full sample. I can pull it all the way in to really short, and here's how it'll sound. Cuts off really short. I prefer having one shot off because it allows me more control over the sound. A lot of times for kicks, I'll kind of tighten the kicks by just pulling back the MIDI note to make it a smaller MIDI note, kind of tighten the kick up a little bit. But for the crash, we want to actually have the full crash, so we'll drag this all the way out. And we don't want this to loop. It's going to be crazy on the crashes, so let's just pull this loop back so it only happened on the beginning. It's probably going to be loud as well, so let's turn that down immediately and let's hear how it sounds. Snare's a little loud. Turn it down a little bit. Okay, so there's your basic drum beat. Using some classic drum machines. Now, if we want to, let's say, spice it up a little bit, get a little bit more of a kind of a cleaner feel, let's go ahead and what we'll do is we'll unloop the hi-hat, copy the hi-hat over, so we can actually change the parameters and the MIDI notes in this secondary hi-hat. Let's add a little bit of an open hi-hat. There we go. Let's hear how that sounds. Cool. So let's do it here as well. Okay, so now it's feeling a little rigid. So a way you can kind of give it a little bit more of a human feel is you can use what's called velocity, which essentially is just how hard you're hitting the notes. So you can do that by selecting any of the notes, and you want to click this little button up here to turn velocity on, and then you can click it again to turn it off, and it'll give you this little velocity meter down here, and you can change the velocity. Now, essentially, when it comes to drum machine instruments, it's basically just the volume. So you can go ahead and what you can do is you can turn down the velocity on the one notes. So let's turn them down to like 20 or so. And I can select all the ones. Basically all the ones where the kick is happening. Let's move them all down to around 20. Let's do the same to this one as well. Oops. Grab these notes. Bring them down to about 20. And then hear how that sounds. So you can hear the hi-hat is now not striking quite as loud, quite as hard when the kick happens. Gives it a little bit more of a groove. Also we can do is we can these claps, we can come onto these claps here, and these little parameters here and up here are our zoom parameters. The ones up here are going to control the up and down zooming of this window here, left and right, and these ones down here are going to control the piano roll down here. So we can come in nice and tight on these claps. So you can see both of these claps here. And all we're going to do is we're going to offset these claps just slightly. So we're just going to Command A to select both of them. And just move them off to the side just a touch. To give it a little bit more of a human feel so the claps aren't quite perfect. Let's hear how that sounds. It's a little too much. So let's go in real tight on this. And I'm gonna Command A again. So I know I have both selected, even though I can't see both at the same time. And then just gonna move them back a little bit closer. Hear how that sounds? There we go, that's pretty good. Okay, so then we can also go ahead and we can, kicks. We can throw in a couple extra kicks, little kicks to kind of give a bit of more of a groove. Just throw. At this point, the sky's the limit. This is where you're going to really craft your beat and kind of get the kind of groove that you want to get. Most typical synthwave songs are just going to have that classic kind of four to the floor feel. Also toms. Go ham on the toms. I mean, toms are, especially these kind of classic '80s toms, are a staple of the kind of synthwave sound. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with them. Have fun with sort of different weird timing and whatnot. So you can see, because I turned one shot off and I shortened these notes, it's actually cutting those samples short. So I'll show you what it sounds like with one shot back on to allow those samples to play out. It'll be subtly less realistic because it won't cut the tails on double hits, but that's all right. We're working with '80s drum machines here, so realism isn't our first priority. We can get a little bit quicker pace, if you want to copy some of these hi-hats over. And if we copy all these blue notes, the lower velocity notes, onto to fill in the gaps, we can kind of get a 16th note kind of quick hi-hat beat. Let's go ahead and add a couple extra little snares here. I'm going to unloop this, duplicate the snare, double click that to bring up the notes. Let's go ahead and add an extra instrument here. Let's add a big clap. So I simply just did that by Command D, add the instrument. Let's see what we can do here. Let's I have a bunch of other I think I have some claps already. Yeah, big claps. It's already a thing. Let's see what I got there. All right. Okay, now we can move that over here, and we're placing that on our final snare beat. And you can kind of sense where things are by kind of moving your scrubber over the note. You can do it down here or up here. But if you move your scrubber over the note and then move over to your snare, you can then see where it's hitting, and we can see here that's hitting on our last snare. It's kind of a quick way of kind of lining things up if you're kind of confused as to where things might be. Anyway, we have our big clap here. We're going to add some reverb onto it. Let's go over to audio effects. Just get the basic built-in reverb. I like to do Space Designer as just a quick throw up. Crank the wet a bit. And let's hear how that sounds. Turn it up a little bit. Okay, awesome. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and duplicate this entire thing. We can move this over. Let's go ahead and delete the toms here so that we only have the tom fill at the end. So if we play this, we do this crash as well. Okay, cool. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. For the next one, we'll be doing EQ and sculpting the drums, maybe adding some bass. But yeah, see you next time. Thanks for watching.